Imagine you're trying to take a last-minute vacation, but all of the local flights out of your airport are booked. What can you do? Do you want to hop on a train? Do you want to hop on a bus? Or do you want to catch your own personal private jet? That's right, you don't even have to imagine it. In today's day and age, you can book your own private flight. Not only is Uber doing this, but other companies are doing it as well for the first ever flight ride shares. Forget trying to get a ride share to the airport to hop on your flight, when instead you can get picked up at your house by a helicopter, catch a private flight to your vacation destination, and call it a day. We just want trains. Why do they keep doing things for transportation that we do not want or need, and that are terrible for the environment? So let's dive in. Let's talk about everything from Uber Elevate to booking your own private flight to the environmental impact of private jets. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all sorts of things zero waste, focusing on free, easy, and fun ways to live zero waste. And sometimes we talk about crazy things like this. Let's go ahead and jump right in, because today's video is really just going to highlight the fact that we as individuals, the average Joes who do not have private jets or take private flight, we're not causing climate change. So just keep that in mind as we go through this video. What is Uber Elevate? Created in 2016 and according to Joby, who we will learn more about later, Uber Elevate has played an important role in laying the groundwork for the aerial ride-sharing market by bringing together regulators, civic leaders, real estate developers, and technology companies around the shared vision for the future of air travel. Their software tools enabling market selection, demand simulation, and multimodal operations are the center of their work and form the basis of this future-focused deal. That was a lot, and let's break it down. Uber Elevate is an electronic vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. That also sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. A vertical takeoff and landing aircraft is something like a helicopter. It takes off vertically, it lands vertically. Here are a couple other examples. And according to Uber, they claim that this will be more cost and space efficient than infrastructure-heavy and capital-intensive approaches such as roads, rails, bridges, and tunnels. They're literally saying that this is better for the environment than trains. They also say that their designs are used to repurpose the decks of parking garages and existing helipads that will create a basis of extensive distributed network and skyports in the future. So it doesn't seem to be as bad as I'm sure we all first thought. They are electronic, they are taking advantage of the already built infrastructure for air travel, particularly because when it comes to electronic vertical takeoff and landing, I'm just going to call it VTOL from here on out because it's easier. They do take up less infrastructure space as opposed to like a private jet, even a small plane like a Cessna, because they don't need runways to take off and land. It does only require a small helipad in order to land and take off, which is cool infrastructure wise, and it does require fewer infrastructure than cars. But my first issue is that the infrastructure for cars already exists. We already have roads and parking garages and tunnels and bridges. We already have all of that. Why would we create new infrastructure for air travel when we already have existing air travel for cars? The demand for Uber and other ride shares are not creating a higher demand to build new roads and new parking garages. It's taking advantage of the infrastructure we already have, which is what Uber Elevate is doing as well. But their claim that like it's so much better than cars is kind of silly to me. Meanwhile, should this industry explode, should it really take off, pun not intended, we'll have to build more heliports, more airpads, more etc. So I think this argument is pretty null, at least for the time being. In 2020, Uber first announced its partnership with Joby in a press release that I will have linked in the blog post if you want to read it in full. But in short, their goal was to be fully operational by 2023, and Uber invested $75 million in Joby in order to get them there. But they didn't get there in 2023. There still is not a way to book an Uber Elevate flight, at least that I could find doing my research. And perhaps it's still in the works, but I think their main issue is going to be the lack of heliports and honestly a lack of business. If their cars already cost, upwards of $50 to $100 depending on how far you're going and the region you're located in, how much is a helicopter going to cost? I really don't think the average person is going to be as excited about this as they think. Perhaps people will try it here and there just for the thrill of it, just to say that they did it, but I don't think people are going to take their helicopters regularly. We'll see where Uber flights takes us, but for now it seems that someone else has gone the case and it's kind of stagnated, so we'll keep an eye on it. But recently another article has caught my eye. This is a new up-and-coming company called KinectAir, and they have been dubbed the Uber of flying. I was like, what does that mean? It seems bad, but once again, it's not as bad as we originally think. So let's dive into it and you can let me know your thoughts. So KinectAir is a private aircraft company that focuses on airframes that are more fuel efficient, making private flights cheaper and a little greener. A little. And anyone can book a flight with KinectAir, not just, you do have to be rich. You do have to be wealthy, have some sort of disposable income to book a flight, but it's not just for billionaires. It's not just this, exclusive club. Anyone in the general public can book a flight through KinectAir. They make private flights accessible, direct quote, by renting aircraft to passengers so that they don't have to own their own private aircraft. After trying to book my own flight solely for the purposes of this video, I didn't actually take a private flight, I promise. I just wanted to see what the prices were like. I can assure you it is not accessible at all. I'm not sure what their definition of accessible is. Yeah, it's cheaper than owning a whole aircraft, but considering that a personal flight for me, a private flight for me out of my local airport was between $4,000 and $20,000. I'm not really sure how accessible that is, considering, taking a commercial flight is like $100 to $400, maybe up to $1,000, like if it's like a really busy time of year, depending on location. I'm talking absolute ceiling being $1,000 for a commercial flight, and the low ball for this private flight is $4,000. So inaccessibility aside, KinectAir is doing something that I think is pretty cool, at least for the elite that can take advantage of it. They allow you to book an empty leg flight. What is this? A direct quote from their website says, "It is an opportunity to provide bargains for potential passengers. An empty leg flight occurs when a private jet is chartered to a specific location and has no passengers on it for its return flight back to its home base." So let's say, for example, me at the Dayton airport, I want to book a private flight to Miami, but the flight has to return back to Dayton for whatever reason. So whoever's in Miami wants to take a private flight to Ohio. I'm not sure why you'd want to take a private flight to Ohio. Maybe you got family here. Someone can hop on that flight for a discounted price because that aircraft would have otherwise been empty and really, really wasteful. So I do think that this is cool in order to make the flight worth it and not just flying it empty. But is this version more accessible price-wise? I wouldn't say accessible, but it is a little bit cheaper than their average regular private flight cost. I'm not sure that this method of travel will ever take off either, since again the cost of a rideshare car or a commercial flight is really just the way to go, and it's also very much the most environmentally friendly way to travel in the United States, of course, because we don't have trains. Perhaps those with money and who want more convenience to just go to their local airport and hop on their own flight will take advantage of it, but again, you have to be quite wealthy in order to afford a $4,000 to $20,000 private flight. Do I think Uber Flight and KinectAir are as bad as I once thought? No, I don't think they're as bad as I thought reading those headlines. I think that they have found markets for themselves, and clearly they're making it work because they're still operational. Well, KinectAir is. Uber Elevates hasn't gotten off the ground yet. They're trying their best, I think, to make luxuries like this as eco-friendly as possible, from using electronic VTOLs, loading up these empty passenger flights. But I truly don't think that this is the future that we need or want. I really don't think the average person wants this. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but let me know what you would prefer. Would you prefer high-speed rail across the US? Do you want more private jets? And while we're on the topic, I was really curious on what the true environmental impact of private jets are, from celebrities to even the average person. Particularly because while KinectAir is doing their empty leg flights, they're not using a fleet of sustainable aircraft. They're not trying to become electric, which honestly, let me know if you want a full video on electronic aircraft, because I have done a little bit of research on it and I found that it's very difficult to achieve. And if you're interested in a deep dive on electric aircraft, let me know and I'll make it. But I also really wanted to look into this because as things like KinectAir and Uber Elevate become more popular, it won't just be celebrities and politicians hopping on private flights. It will start to be more people taking private flights. Okay, leave your guesses below. For one person on a private jet versus one person on a commercial flight, what the difference there is in emissions. It is 45 times more wasteful to take a private jet versus a commercial flight, one to one person. And if you're wondering how that compares to a train, a private jet is 1,100 times more pollutive than a train. It's so frustrating because, you know, everyone is seeming to care about self-charging roads, which we're going to dive into in a future video, private flights, Uber Elevate. They care more about this than building train infrastructure, which is 1,100 times better for the planet and also will help traffic. It will help so many things. It is also estimated that only about 0.0008% of the population owns a private jet. Very small amount. But nearly 17% of all flights handled by the Federal Aviation Administration are private flights. These people who take private flights don't even make up 1%. They don't even make up 0.5%, but they are creating 17% of flights. Also, according to Simple Flying, private jets emit at least 10 times more pollutants than commercial planes per passenger. Emissions have increased by more than 23% as private jet use has risen about a fifth since the COVID-19 pandemic began. There was plenty of celebrities I could have chosen, but we chose Elon Musk to really dive into his carbon footprint. Keep in mind, this is just his private flights. So this is also, you can also multiply this by the estimated 64,000 other people who own a private jet: Taylor Swift, the Kardashians, politicians, etc. Elon Musk alone, in 2022 alone, took 171 private flights. Maybe that doesn't seem like a lot to you, but that's about an average of a private flight every other day. I can tell you how many times I flew in 2022. Brother's wedding, 2 weddings. I think I went to 2 weddings in 2022. I flew twice, just for comparison. And people will guilt me on the internet about flying. Again, just Elon Musk, just private flights, just 2022 produced 2,100 tons of CO2. That is about 130 times what the average person will emit in an entire year from every single thing they do in their life, food to lifestyle to driving and so forth. Another prime example was in also 2022, Kylie Jenner went viral for a 17-minute private flight. It was only about 40 miles. Now, I'm not trying to pick on one celebrity or the other. I mean, I am. Nor am I saying that billionaires, politicians, celebrities should take commercial flights. I understand that there is a safety reason why they don't. They could drive. Kylie Jenner, okay? You could drive the 40 miles. I know it's a bit of an inconvenience. It would take you probably an hour instead of 17 minutes. Why they also can't take commercial flights is because of celebrity culture in the United States. I don't know how celebrities are in other countries, but in the United States, we literally worship celebrities. We put them up on a pedestal, and we're watching Crown right now, and we're really just seeing this. I know it's a TV show, but Prince William in the 90s, just how absolutely worshipped he was. Dude couldn't even like ski down a mountain in rural Canada without paparazzi being there. So like, can you imagine if Kim K or Joe Biden showed up to a commercial airport? Pandemonium. That absolutely could not fly because we worship them too much. So the only thing we can do here besides stopping worshiping celebrities is to tax the rich. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. Their impact on the planet is insane. Literally insane compared to the average person. Why are we when they're the problem? Again, the numbers are clear. Just in flights, their emissions are up to 130 times the average person. 130 people doing their average stuff over the course of 1 year is the equivalent to one man's private flight's emission. Like, that is just crazy. I saw someone recently expose like Taylor Swift's flights for the last few months just to go see Travis Kelce play, and it's crazy. And anyway, point of that is someone dubbed the term, maybe I've just never heard it before, is climate criminal. Was it climate criminal? These people are climate criminals. They literally are, just by hopping on private jets. And I'm also making this video just to further prove that I'm not the enemy, you're not the enemy. We need to stop pointing fingers at one another and point fingers at the people who are actually to blame. Because again, like, no matter how wasteful or not wasteful I am, Elon Musk is always going to be 130 times more wasteful than me, just in private flights. Keep that in mind. He's more wasteful than just his flying too. Anyway, back to taxes. According to Simple Flying, private jet flights contribute to only 2% of the taxes that make up the trust fund that primarily funds the FAA. Passengers that purchase commercial flights represent the overwhelming majority of the tax revenue that makes up the aviation trust fund, which is about 70%. Keep in mind that flying privately is 45 times more pollutive, but commercial flights are responsible for 35 times more of the taxes than private jets. I know, more people are flying commercial. It's easier to tax a lot more people than it is to tax a few people, but we're not the problem. Unless you're taking a commercial flight every single day. But even if you took a commercial flight every 2 days, that's still 45 times better than taking a private flight every 2 days. Like, even if you fly a ton commercially, it's still better than flying even a little bit privately. Private flights are making up 17% of all flights, and they only pay 2% of the taxes. So just something to keep in mind. Will taxing them fix the climate though? Probably not. But these taxes might dissuade people like Kylie Jenner taking a 17-minute flight when she could have driven 40 miles. It might stop them from taking as many flights. Maybe. I don't know. If anything, we can at least use those tax dollars to go towards climate solutions instead of just sitting here being like, I wonder who's causing climate change. We know who's causing climate change. At the end of the day, just remember that you flying a couple of times every single year is not killing the planet. It's not even coming close. Yes, it would be great if every single person could avoid every single flight, but until we have high-speed rail, until we have even better trains and better buses, it's not going to happen, especially in a country like the United States where we are just so spread out. Our small actions matter. They truly do. If you can avoid flying, cool. That is making a step in the right direction for the planet, but we are not the culprits. Just keep that in mind. I think what Uber Elevate is doing is a cool step in the right direction. Is it going to save the planet? No. And I don't even hate the empty flight thing that KinectAir is doing. But again, is that going to save the planet? No. Private flights are not the answer to anything. The only answer is rich people convenience. And I know some people might be like, oh, well, trains won't save the planet either. I know, trains won't alone save the planet. There's not one solution to the climate crisis. We need multiple things like composting, recycling, taxing the rich, taxing corporations, trains. Like, there's so many different things that we could do for the planet. We know what we need to do. We just need to do them. We being like the government. But I can tell you for sure that private flights are not a solution. They're not even one of the solutions. Clearly, they're causing a lot of harm. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this video. Shout out to my friend / old neighbor for sending me this article and inspiring this video. I hope that you're watching. This was a lot of fun to research, absolutely mind-blowing to research. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you're as angry as I am about celebrities taking private flights and governments and corporations paying for stuff like private flights and self-charging roads when we just want trains. We just want and need trains. Trains would solve so many problems. Thank you again. I really appreciate your time. Remember that your small changes really do make a big impact in the long run, but you're not to blame for climate change. As seen from this video. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. I like this one. I hope that you guys like it too. I'm literally so excited about this one. Please like it. Anyway, that's kind of a weird outro. I'm gonna leave it though. Bye. This is a new up-and-coming company, but it might de-incentivize? Is that a word? De-incentivize? Unincentivize? Dissuade? Let's use dissuade.